Hi, welcome back to a Kenny Veach video. So as you know, most of the videos I've covered, especially to do with the M Cave hike route and Kenny's last known whereabouts, was on lower ground to an extent. I never really covered mountain tops and peaks. I know Jay Silverheels did quite a lot of that, and Jay Chuck did explore up the ravines, but not the mountain tops. Now, the reason why I bring all that up is credit to James, who recently suggested it and also put forward a fair point as well, which made me think, possibly. It's to do with, could Kenny Veach be up on one of the peaks, one of the mountaintops, stranded up there, and then over time, whatever happened, happened. Now, the reason why I've not looked at it before is because I thought, well, if he's looking for the M Cave, supposedly it's in Jomay Canyon somewhere, supposedly it's on ground level, then there's no need whatsoever to be going way up there. Now in the past, yes, Kenny did go higher ground, as this demonstrates.
So I slept up in these mountains, and it's pretty high. I think that's about, it's like 9,000 feet up there. And it's the camera just doesn't do it justice. But I slept on one of those peaks. I think that's the peak I slept on, and then I came down in the morning.
But on that hike, as well as many others in the past, he wasn't directly looking for the M Cave, so he was exploring all over the place. Now, if he was supposedly going on his final ever hike looking for the cave, how and why did he end up way up there in the mountains? Well, as said, James put a decent point across, and that is, if Kenny was in danger, if he hurt, injured himself, he might have tried scrambling to the nearest high point elevation to raise a signal of some sort. And some of you might think, is it likely? Well, let's look at history. History can repeat itself, and due to past things that have happened, Kenny did injure his leg badly in the past, which resulted to him being stranded. I think he was on some kind of mountaintop and he had to call for help. I don't know what he exactly used, whether it was mobile phone, a flare, whatever it was. He needed help, he got help, and some helicopter flew in and rescued him. It's funny, whilst recording, I'd talk about helicopters. Look, there's one flying by. That's a bit of a coincidence. So, with that already happening in the past, it may have well happened again, but maybe this time round he wasn't as lucky because he didn't have as many items with him and no one saw the call for help, possibly. Now briefly, all I want to do is just have a look on Google Earth now and look at the potential areas where he may have gone. So here we are. As you can see on the screen, immediately there is a marker called Sheep Peak. Now Kenny at the time, he did describe Sheep Peak and he also mentioned Gas Peak, I believe. Hayford Peak was also mentioned, but that was by the dodgy individual online known as Gene Lotkowski. So we're just going to have a little scan around to see the potential areas Kenny may have gotten to. So let's just try and flip the screen. You know, if we're basing it off the concept of the mine shaft because of the phone, it could be up that way. Few honourable mentions, just want to refer back to. I think it's around this area here, Blackgate Canyon. This was where that private search and rescue team was in the past in 2021, I think January. There'll be a link top corner of the screen right now if you want to look back at that information and all the other important groups that have participated, etc. Make sure to check that out. And yeah, you can see pathways that go up this way. So he could have got high ground coming this way. I mean, it's kind of possible. The reason why I say that is because of the whole scent. You know, from what we've heard in the past, sure, going to the mine shaft, which is up this way, scent being lost, might have come back the way he came in the first place, all the way down here, and then turned and went up one of these ways, because you can see the paths Try and get to ground level. It does split off. Apologies if the screen brightness does change. I think it's on adaptive display at the moment. And it was basically this area right here where the bone was found by the private search and rescue team. It turned out, well, they said it was a femur bone, turned out it was an animal one. That's even if it's true that, like, if people actually went there in the first place. So as you can see, you do get a bit of height up this way. Is it possible to get to the peak? Well, I'm not an expert. I mean, you can see it's tight and narrow, but that's to be expected. It bends round a bit. Definitely a lot of vegetation, so it makes you think, could trees get in the way, prevent you from getting up higher? I know with J Chuck, there was blockages and trees in his way, in his line of sight. Yeah, it does look a bit steep, but yeah, if you did manage to go up this way, you could have gotten some good elevation. And then whilst you're, let's just say, on this peak, calling for help, whether it be a flare gun or something, you know, people should be able to see it. Las Vegas is over there. And, you know, you got the Desert National Wildlife Refuge just over that way, I think. There you go. So they should see it as well. So you get a good height from here, to be fair. All the way around, you got Cold Creek, Indian Springs. It does get slightly higher up that way where Sheep Peak is, and I think that's where Kenny went. And to be honest, it would make sense because you probably get a good view up there. It's one of the higher points in this area. I don't know how Kenny actually accessed Sheep Peak in the first place. Like, I don't know where he parked, exactly where he went. You know, he might have used that same trail again. Or as I said, as history repeats itself, wherever on the mountains he was at in the past when he injured himself, he might have gone back there again if it was within the area. So yeah, with that little honourable mention aside, Blackgate Canyon, let's just move on up this way. You got Jeremy Guzzler on the left, and you do have some smaller peaks, mountain tops up there, but it does seem a bit more brutal and harsh. I know Jeff Claude did go in that area. Can't remember how much he covered. I'm sure Silverheels will cut in and start whinging and whining or something just because I said the wrong word. But yeah, could Kenny have gone that way? I don't think so, in my opinion. Because on the left-hand side, the peaks aren't as high. And for some reason, I just feel like it would be more on the right-hand side. As you can see, there's a lot of those like ravines. Now, J Chuck did go up some of them, ravine 1, 2, 3 and 4, whichever ones they were. And he didn't find anything. But you could only go so far up. So depending which one it is, maybe that might have impacted Kenny if he was trying to. Only other thing just to make note of in between is of the cold trap. So with the temperatures, you know, it could be hot in one spot and then cold in another due to the difference in elevation depending on what height you're at. And that point was raised by Silverheels, so that could have also impacted Kenny at the time. So, you know, depends about the scent, because if he used to keep on going north, what happened? Because his scent was lost at the mine shaft. Why? Is it because just with time, you know, with that 8-day delay of reporting him missing, it just faded over time? So if they were quicker, then maybe it would have led on over Wild Horse Pass and revealed more. Maybe, but we can look at that in a second, okay? So just pardon me as I stretch. So, what else do we have before that? Well, if he stopped round about near the mine shaft, and we flip the screen up slightly, yes, you can see some ravines up there. And try and go up one of them. This one seems to have a bit more of a pathway. Okay. But to be fair, they don't look exactly practical. They don't really look accessible from here. It looks a little bit too steep. You got one that way, and it bends in and out. This one, up to that point, seems somewhat okay, but it does seem to get very steep in this area, so it does seem a little dodgy. And as you can see on the side, the white bit, that's just snow, so you can sense just visually the coldness in that area, going from low ground to higher ground, the effect it can have. You can let me know if you have any recommendations, any possible peaks, access points he might have gone up. We're just looking on either side. Yeah, when you look at it from the other side, it seems a bit more gradual. There's like a pathway which goes up to him, but that's away from the main hike route, so I highly don't think that will be the case. There is only one other possible location to consider, which we'll get to shortly. But yeah, look, one of the highest points, Sheep Peak, within this area. We just rotate the screen around. I mean, J Chuck had the odd few videos on his channel where he was in the desert somewhere, on some of the mountain tops, and he was panning all the way around. He managed to get up there. I don't know which one though. And you could see extensively the view, the distance. And even Artari. Artari did go up one of the smaller mountains somewhere within Las Vegas. And I think it was at night time when it's darker, and he was panning around. You could see the city, you could see the lights. So if you fired a flare around about then, a lot of people would see it and people would be notified. I don't know who would intervene first, whether it be the Desert National Wildlife Refuge or military, if they were wondering what's going on, because they patrol the area on some of the roads. Or if it's just police, people from the city, who knows? So that's interesting. When we rotate the camera angle from this way, 1, 2, 3, Sheep Peak, Hidden Forest Ridge, and Hayford Peak all go kind of like one after another. It's like a ridge all the way down, like a spine in a sense, a curved spine. Yeah. I can do maybe a better analysis next time on the maps with desktop. Apologies if there is a jump cut in the video. I had to transition over because there are inconsiderate neighbours next door with an annoying yapping dog, so apologies for that. As said, Sheep Peak. Now, how could you get up there? Well, if we just flip the screen, I think this is Wagon Canyon. Now, a few people have actually mentioned about this location. Has anyone been up there? Has anyone investigated? Me? I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe Treasure Trails went that way. I can't remember. But yeah, let's just say Kenny went that way. So he went north, eventually turned right. That's if he injured himself somehow, somewhere. Wagon Spring, and made his way all the way up to Sheep Peak, as you can see on the right. Maybe that's the best way to get to Sheep Peak. Leave a comment down below if you've been to Sheep Peak, if you know how to get to Sheep Peak, and then maybe we can get a clearer understanding of that. So yeah, any other possible points of interest he could have gone up? You got Hidden Forest Ridge, Hayford Peak. They're kind of interesting. Deadman Canyon. The significance of this area is supposedly Accord Research, the group, in the past, was it 70s, 80s, went up this way, supposedly found a cave with unusual frequencies, described it as the M cave, and then military came along, Nellis Air Force Base, and forced them to move away. So that's the significance of this area. Maybe Kenny went up here. It's a long path, but it seems somewhat manageable, and then somehow made it up to Hidden Forest Ridge, Hayford Peak. Once again, these two locations do have a vantage point. Let's go to Hayford Peak. It's a little bit sensitive. There you go. We can see all around. Yeah, you got Charleston Peak over there, but that's too far that. So yeah, apologies about the erratic camera shake. Nothing I can do about that on mobile. Yeah, so you basically get the idea. There's a lot of vantage points within this area. You've got Hayford Peak, Hidden Forest Ridge, Sheep Peak being a place where Kenny's previously been. Can't remember the exact name of the peak he went when he was injured, but maybe he reused that. The only possible counterpoint would be if he did injure himself, then where and exactly how? Because if it was on lower ground, would it have been too difficult to actually get up to the peak? If it's steep, if he's hurt his leg, how's he going to get his body up there? But you never know where it exactly occurred. If he's managed in the past to get and climb up high despite having an injured leg, he might have been able to do that again. You never know. As for lower ground, as we've previously discussed and talked about, it just goes on. And once you get to this point, it does flatten out slightly. You know, the ridge goes down in elevation past Hayford Peak. Just very quickly before I forget, Hayford Peak was the location by Gene Lokowski, the dodgy one, who said they found a campsite abandoned on Hayford Peak as well. Hidden Forest Ridge. Both locations had abandoned campsites. Just thought you'd know, just in case you didn't. So yeah, it goes down the ridge. It carries on going, as you can see in the distance, but it's probably too far out by then and not high enough for people to see you. You got Dead Horse Ridge over this way. I did refer back to that in the past, saying, could that be a possible spot maybe? But once again, it does seem a little bit awkward. Let's just see. You got a few pathways. You got a potential route here, which goes in and out and gradually makes it to the ridge. This probably is a little bit more doable. Yeah. Just go north. Right. We're facing north now. And further on out, if we're going 45 miles all the way, we get to, I think, around about this point or so. And really, if he did injure himself here in this area, there's really no elevation points. I know you've got Badger Mountain in the distance, but that's too far out. There's not really much you can do. You are stranded in a place like this, very desolate and open. I mean, isn't there a road somewhere, like a highway? Is it this one here? Yeah, just on the other side. Is it Highway 93 or 92 or 94? Wow, don't really matter. So yeah, a lot of distance. Depends how much of it realistically. Maybe realistically up to Sheep Peak. Maybe Hidden Forest Ridge. We need to take into account, was he dehydrated? Was he tired, knackered after getting back from that? Was it 10-hour hike of the basic original, well, not basic, but you know what I'm saying, the original M Cave hike route? He was tired. He was a bit beaten up and injured. So what makes him think he could have done 45 miles? Was he training for it? Probably not. Maybe he believed he could, but physically he couldn't, to the point where At some point, he then injured himself, got hurt, got in danger, and attempted to maybe go up one of the ridges, one of the peaks, because in his mind he's thinking, this has happened before. I managed to get help. Maybe I can again this time round. Hopefully someone can leave a comment down below and leave possible points of access points, as I said, to Sheep Peak, but also, you know, I wonder what Kenny had on him at the time when he was out there. Like, was it a flare gun? Or was it just his cell phone? Which one got him the help? Because that could determine the outcome this time round. So yeah, apologies about background sound. It's annoying, it's distracting, it kind of throws me off when I'm narrating at times, so it can get messy. Not much I can do. Now, all in all, I know some humans, depends if people get to this point of the video, I know some will appreciate it, others won't complain. But reality is, yes, the area has been covered on foot and also aerial view, but specifically high points, ridges, mountaintops, although briefly looking at them in the past, I wasn't directly looking at them as the potential whereabouts of Kenny specifically. Yes, other people have covered it. Jay Silverheels has extensively talked about high points, low points, Kenny being up there, falling off onto the other side, falling down, etc. But I haven't specifically. And with James's point recently about him previously injuring himself and being up there, yeah, I knew of that already in the past, but I didn't tie both together. And when you tie both together, when you know there's a history, there has been examples in the past where he's made use of locations like that, not just for camping, but also to be rescued. It might have occurred once again. So it's a fair point. It does tie in. It is somewhat valid. So that's why I wanted to take a look at it. As for map analysis, it is rough because you only know so much and we're just basing it off what we can see visually on screen and the actual points and markers that are there. And it's trying to understand, as I said, the access points, which way he could have gone if he did so, what's most likely, what's most practical in his situation. But, you know, as I said, if he's been injured before, he managed to climb up with a bad leg, then I'm sure he could have managed again. But in terms of the help, maybe it was too late by then. It always makes me think, though, the whole scent situation, if reported earlier, maybe we could have found out more. Up there, you could have found out more, gone further. It's a question, isn't it? Anyway, apologies if the video's long, but at the same time, with it being a bit longer, I guess it could be a live video premiere if that's what I decide. But then it also gives time for people to chat and discuss things within the message bar thing. So there's that. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this idea, this concept, like what James put forwards. Leave a comment down below, or if there's anything else you need to say. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.